Ugh. I don't know what's going on here. Ugh. I don't know what's going on here. Let me. Ugh. I don't know what's going on here. All right, can everyone? I definitely don't like the way the name is. What's up, man? J Dub's on his way, so give me a couple brief moments.
Yo.
What's up, man?
What's going on, brother?
Give me 1 second. I'm tweeting out the stream.
No problem. Once you
Ugh.
tweet it, I'll retweet it.
Yeah, I just did it. All right. All right. So first off, can everyone hear J Dub in the comment section? Because I had to make a completely new stream thing because apparently they updated stuff.
Boy, can y'all hear me?
It'd be a shame if they missed that boy one time.
Let us know. Let us know.
Well, I'm gonna listen to a stream thing because apparently they updated stuff.
Boy,
Yeah,
can
they
y'all
can
hear
hear
me?
you. They can hear you.
All right.
All right. So let me go ahead. Actually, it'd probably be best. It is what it is. We'll keep it how it is now.
All right.
All right. Let me bring up my little piece of paper.
All righty.
So
Got your homework going?
I got my homework, man. So what's going on, you guys? Addict's back with another Addict show. And you know what's funny? Since I rebooted these, you have literally been part of every Addict show. The Addict show is where we speak the past, present, and future of games. And I'm here with pretty much my co-host, like I said, I'm gonna start calling you not the J Dub himself, and I'm gonna start calling you the Xbox Slayer on Twitter these days, like. So what's going on, man?
Everything good, man. Can't complain. Can't complain.
Oh, you
Just,
can't.
just enjoying gaming, man.
So how you feel about the trans the transpiring that's been going on here lately? Like, what you've been playing?
Man, I've been playing a gang of load of stuff on Switch. I'm still grinding out trying to get that platinum on Death Stranding. Escape from Tarkov on
Is one of the
PC.
trophies on Death Stranding fall asleep successfully like 5 times in a row?
You know what? It could be. I don't look at the little trophy list just yet, but I'm sure I'll get there.
So we got a couple topics to talk about. I try to make these generally quick. I don't like keeping people's attention too long. I felt like one of the things that the Addict Show, cause Addict Show's not like a weekly thing. It's whenever the hell I decide to do one. And one of the
Right.
things I decided when I made this is, to compete with all the other stuff, because you got Kid Smooths, the Best Bought Theory, you got BG's. He don't even do his really anymore. And you got, the Press Start Show. Try to make them quick. Try to get them out, get them in, get them out. I feel like that's one of the ways I compete in this area. So, our main topic is obviously the Xbox Series X. But we're going to come back to that here in about 20 minutes because I want to keep that for the end part of the show. So, forgive me. But the first thing I want to join on this is I've really been seeing a lot of this going on. J Dub, what is your game of the generation? Gun to the face. What's your game of the generation?
Well, without a doubt,
It's Death Stranding.
it's no, without a doubt, it was a runaway winner with God of War, and then once Death Stranding came out and just got me hooked, got me in there, man. I had to put it as my 1-2 combo.
Your 1-2 combo?
That's my 1-2 combo. God of War and Death Stranding. So, of course, being Kratos, I got to give it to God of War. That's undeniable. It is the game.
But game of the game of the generation.
of the generation.
I can respect that.
Yeah.
I would have to say, to be honest with you, it would be God of War to me too, because I really enjoyed. Now, game of the decade's a different story. Once you start adding,
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
thing.
Now, when we say that, right, I'm talking about the last 6, 7
Yeah,
years.
we're talking about pretty much
History.
this generation.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because God of War, and a lot of you guys know, like, I might make fun of some stuff that PlayStation related, but what's funny is I've played almost all of their exclusives. I've beat almost all of their exclusives.
Yeah.
Like, I beat the games that apply to me. One of the games that I dropped that I still hate to this day is Persona 5. I still need to go back and beat that. Because it was actually a really good game when I was playing it.
Yeah.
And one of the excuse me?
I was just gonna say that's kind of one of the things I keep in my mind when I interact with people on Twitter and YouTube. Regardless of what's your favorite platform, I always go with that same mantra: is this guy has to be playing these same games that I'm playing, because there's no way he's going to deny himself a great game like God of War, Spider-Man.
Don't get it twisted. There are some huge frauds out there that ain't playing none of these games, and they're going around talking like crazy. But we won't go into that too much.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Okay, we'll tackle that.
So, when it comes to quality of games, obviously, Sony's had a great quality of games this generation. But I feel like what made God of War so special, because I'm really convinced, like, Uncharted 4 was great, Bloodborne was great. But I feel like God of War was on that same level that the PS3 had with The Last of Us. Would you agree to that, J-Dub?
I agree.
I think God of War...
God of War is this gen's... so far, right? The Last of Us, because next year, next May, we could play The Last of Us 2, and we can forget all about God of War. So we're only speaking as to this day, up to now.
And I feel like God of War, another reason it was so amazing is because you went from a concept. It was not even just a little bit of game changes. It was significant amount of game changes. It's nothing like its predecessors. A lot of people, I, including one of those, I was very skeptical about that. I didn't know how I was going to feel about that. I didn't know how I was going to feel about God of War going in that type of gameplay. When I played the game, I still have issues with the camera angling somehow. When I was fighting the Valkyrie, sometimes the camera angle would mess up and I would die because of it. But, we're talking about small incidences that happen within 40, 50 hours of playing the game, maybe happen 30 minutes of it. You know what I'm saying? So, little things that could change on that. I think God of War 2, that's automatically gotten me to buying the PS5 off the right, unless it comes to that PC. But we are going to that. But so, I'm really feeling the way they doing that. I'm not really the biggest fan of Horizon Zero Dawn, so we'll go into that too. But God of War was just so special, and I think it's the little things that Corey put in that game that made it my game of the generation. Like when you go, I'm sorry for anyone in the chat that's not played this game. It's been out for a minute. I'm sorry, we're about to spoil some shit. You want to leave right now if you don't like it. But when you get the Athena blades, and it's just that moment you hold them in your hands. You know what's about to go down, because there was a lot of rumors that this wasn't even the same Kratos when it was in development. Remember?
Yeah. From what I heard is the first iteration of God of War that they tried, Yoshida played it. He said, "Nah, it's not what I'm looking for. Go back from scratch," and they had to start over from scratch.
That's when they put Atriox in it too.
Yeah, and mind you, there's a lot of people before this game came out that said the boy looks like he can be annoying and stuff like that. And one thing that made
I feel like that was deliberate though. That wasn't by accident. I feel like they made him annoying at the beginning deliberately, because by the end of the game, he wasn't the same person.
Exactly. It was that evolution, because this God of War was about a story. It was a completely different story, but it was a story about the interaction between a father and his son, and the father hiding some secrets from his son. The son,
in all sense, like the son not even knowing who his father is.
Exactly. Not, Kratos is not showing him any love. Or if he's showing it, it's that tough love. He wants to touch him on the head. He wants to comfort him, but he doesn't want to do it because he don't know how. He's been used to being tough for eons or lifetimes rather. And so the mom kind of left them alone when she died. She kind of left them alone, and to raise this god without him knowing he's a god, without him knowing his strength and powers and stuff. And the story just unfolded beautifully. I don't think they could have changed anything to make it any better.
Yeah, and point is like, I do give it a lot of feedback when it comes to the beginning because I feel like they kind of came out the gate with like their Kamehameha wave with the fight with the stranger at the beginning, and you think, oh, this is gonna be lit, and that's like that's literally one of the highlights of the whole game, and that's not a bad thing. I think the reason that they're really focusing on world building is because of what they're gonna do in the future when Thor, Odin, and all that pop in. I think that's the reason that they done that because they don't want people like, oh, they should have fought Odin. I do think they should have fought Odin at the end of the game, not Odin, Thor at the end of the game, but it was one of those things that Kratos has to leave because he can't beat him.
Listen, that would have been. I would have loved to see that, right, myself. But looking from a game standpoint, the game is ultimately still more about a story than it is action. It's because you're trying to uncover something.
It is, but I feel like that would have made a pretty good foreshadowing for God of War 2. No, but they did do that secret ending where Thor's outside, and that's nice and everything. But sometimes people want to see these gods that they put up on these pedestals. But at the end of the day, it's like God of War 1. In God of War 1, you only fought Ares. You didn't fight any other god. You just fought Ares.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to throw everything they got at you at the first. They want to make sure Thor's going to be. I can already tell you right now, calling it right now. I don't number these. These are literally Addict shows. I don't have any. It's not Addict Show 15 or anything like that. Addict Show when we talk about Xbox Series X right now. God of War 2, God of War 5.
It will be 5, I guess.
God of War 5, he's fighting Thor. Thor's gonna be the last boss. God of War 6, he's killing Odin.
Okay, so I'll raise you one.
Oh, raise. Okay, let's go. Raise it. I'm gonna get my seat. Let's go.
The very first fight you have in the new God of War will be Thor. The very first fight, and then after that, you'll go through the story, and you'll end.
Do you think he's gonna win or lose that fight?
I'm gonna be.
Think it's gonna be like a God of War 2 scenario where he gets killed?
Okay, spoiler. After you beat the game at the very end, you and Kratos and Atreus reach their final destination, which is the mountaintop where they need to bury the mom's ashes or his wife's ashes. On the wall are these scrolls, and these scrolls show you kind of like what's going to happen or what happened that they haven't disclosed yet. And so it shows that Kratos dies. It shows that Atreus lives, and basically Atreus he's the god. So I do believe, maybe not this next game, but the game after that, they will kill off Kratos.
And that's another thing I felt like they messed up on when it comes to Halo 5 is they try to pass the torch too fast. Sony's doing it correctly with Kratos and Atreus because it looks like that it's gonna go. Look, the title is messed up. I get that. Like it messed up from the point of the stream to the actual game to actual YouTube. I don't know what happened there. I'm gonna fix it after the podcast. I'm not redoing another podcast to fix the title. I know that's unprofessional. It's not professional, but I'm not a professional person. It's not even bearing with me. It's how it is what it is. So, I put the topics on Twitter. Anyone that's coming through here, 9 times out of 10 is coming to Twitter, they know what's up. Now, this name is clearly messed up. I could fix it probably after here in a couple minutes. But, I want to go ahead and, get away from that. Yeah, I feel like we need to do a video, just strictly a stream. I'm going to do an Addict Spotlight in the future, probably the next couple weeks. That's going to be on God of War. Because I feel like there's a lot of things that we could talk about there. Exactly how they did. It's like I said, I feel like when it comes to story building, they're doing it a little bit better. Because I felt like they try to push stuff too quick in Halo 5 with Spartan Lock, when it should have been one of those things like Halo 3 where Arbiters were Spartan Lock's just with the Master Chief. And then they build up a connection with them. You start liking Spartan Lock. Now, I'm not saying anytime ever no one's going to be okay with killing Master Chief. Probably a lot of people aren't going to be okay with killing Kratos. But if you build a good enough character to pass the torch down, people will accept it.
Well, I'll tell you this, right? Halo 5 failed to drag us in because they built this story up prior to the game launching. And when we got to play the game, that's not what delivered. It was supposed to be this big battle
They
between
definitely did
Rock,
false advertising, like
and I kind of feel like they had this bright idea, and then they decided to change it for some reason.
and what I think it was is I think that they didn't want to have that perspective of people knowing, okay, it came out in 2015, we're 4 years in, but I'm going to say it, spoiler alerts. I think they had this perspective that they didn't want you ever thinking Cortana was the main antagonist of the game. And they false advertised to try to get your eyes away from it, because when you look at the trailers and how they did the trailers, there was always Locke going after Chief or Master Chief running away from Locke. Cortana was nowhere to be found. So I think that was their perspective. I don't think that's the way they should have done it, because Cortana actually becoming the antagonist is ingenious. It's just how they told the story, how they executed the story, and how they promoted the game took away from that. But anyway, I don't want to get too on to this because we can go on this forever. So, let's move on to PS5 and Xbox Series X. And, obviously, first off, I want to ask you, Kratos, is we actually had a little glimpse at the Video Game Awards on exactly what's going on with these systems. Obviously, we got the name, we got the way the box looks. And we got a game for the Xbox Series X, and we actually got the very first PS5 announcement game. Obviously, we know God of War 2's coming. We know Horizon Zero Dawn 2's coming. But these, I'm talking about from pure perspective of being announced. Now, what I want to ask you, Kratos, is A, were you surprised that they announced that at the Video Game Awards? And B, were you surprised that Sony didn't announce a game?
I was shocked that they did anything regarding next generation games, hardware, anything for the award show, because typically in history the award show has been for games that's coming out in the following year, kind of like some leftover stuff of what's coming, especially since we had E3. I mean, and I'm gonna be honest, E3 Microsoft kind of got slammed because they didn't show what people wanted to show, or wanted them to show. And then XO19 passed, and it's kind of the same thing. That's their own show. So people were puzzled, and then the award show come, and bam, right front and center, Phil walks out confident. He announced the name of the console. He shows you a picture of the console. He showed, and then he backdoors it and shows you in-engine trailer of Hellblade 2, an exclusive for the console. And so that's what we've been asking for. That's what we've been wanting. That is the Phil Spencer that we needed. That's the Microsoft we needed to fight back, And so I applaud them. And man, that shocked. I mean, shocked everybody. You can't lie and say you weren't shocked. Everybody was shocked.
Okay, obviously our next topic is, the Video Game Awards in general and where I think this platform is coming. But right now, what I really want to focus on is, first off, like, the fact that I kind of like down the middle, because part of me feels like that was genius to announce it there. No one knew about it. I even saw Jeff put on Twitter that Phil Spencer actually read completely incorrect stuff, like scripts, like complete false scripts, to try to keep that on the wrap. So I respect that. But the biggest thing, I'm like, we just had XO like a month ago, fam. Like, I get that the Video Game Awards is where it should have been announced. It should have. But it's just like you hype up this brand and you hype up this XO, and then a month later you show what John All should have been showed on your own platform. Yep. It makes more sense for them to show it at the Video Game Awards. But in terms of making their own platform, do you agree that they should be promoting this platform and working on this platform? They're going to still keep announcing stuff on other people's stages. What do you think about that?
Well, I agree and I disagree. It was ingenious. I mean, it was genius. It was a genius move by Phil Spencer to do it then, because no one expected it. And what happened when XO18 came? We all expected some new announcements, and we got some new announcements. They just weren't what majority of us wanted, which was the graphically demanding games that show you the power of the X and stuff like that. But so he caught everyone off guard, and Microsoft is in a position, Xbox is in a position where they have to bring it. they need some attention, right? They need the attention to be on them. Sony's kind of been dominating in the attention phase for quite a long time. Sony can drop a tweet about something and all the media is running with it. Everyone's talking about it. That's just kind of how it's been. Um, so for Phil to do that, I do think that though, if they are going to curate their brand or rebuild their brand, which I do think they're rebuilding, you're gonna have to do something special for that brand. It's kind of like you're making games, but then everyone gets to play your games. There's nothing special to your box. People kind of, it's like, okay, well, why do you have XO19 or why do you have Inside Xbox if you're not going to show favoritism to the people who buy your stuff? You're not going to give them something special. There's a lot of people who spend a lot of money going to Inside Xbox and going to these events. They would have that would have been the perfect gift for them, to give them
And
the
that is
first
another thing.
inside.
They did sell tickets, and people flew out
Yes,
to XO.
yes, just to see Honey I Shrunk the Kids and stuff, and a bunch of games that technically it's going to be in Game Pass anyway. That could have been I mean, I would liken their showing to a Sony State of Play, right? They kind of show some VR stuff, they show some indie stuff, and then at the end they'll show maybe one good game that you really care about, but the rest of it is like,
I
okay.
think people need to start realizing that. I'm sorry, I keep coughing. I think people need to realize that in terms of Inside Xbox, we're just gonna have to. They don't want to go that direction. Clearly, now I was told that they went more of a focus on XO 19, and they wanted to, because it had a lot better pacing. That's one thing I will say. Regardless if you like the games or not, the pacing was better from previous Inside Xboxes. I actually was told that that's something they did exclusively for XO19. Now we'll have to see if they don't do that again for this next Inside Xbox.
Let me ask you this: after you watch XO19, do you think it was too long? Because there was a lot of people that said, well, we had to sit here and watch it for what, hour and a half.
It was,
And,
but at the same
and,
time,
and the reward for that, right, didn't lead to what
oh,
people
I
wanted.
agree, because me and Lord Cognito, shout out to the Iron Lords podcast. Definitely catch that every Sunday at as right now it's 11 a.m. We're about to go back to 1 p.m. But anyway, I do agree with that. Now I think that they started going downhill with the Grounded, because it's not necessarily that's not a good game. My issue with that game was it's not what you just promoted from this studio 3 weeks ago when Outer Worlds came out. That was my issue. I didn't have an issue with the game. I don't have an issue with them doing their passion products. I'm actually really proud of Microsoft for allowing them to do their passion projects. But at the same time, you cannot get upset when your fans get upset that it's not something that they're used to from the studio. It's the equivalent of Naughty Dog. If Naughty Dog started making MLB games and stuff, you think people would be a little upset? They would.
Well, since you brought it up, right, the whole passion project thing, um, it's good that Microsoft is finally letting their developers do what they want to do without pressuring them. But even Sony, right, they let their developers do, but they do curate it, right? They do say, look, guys, this is kind of what we need. This is what the people are asking for. This is the kind of thing. So I don't think Phil can be hands off all the time. I'm not saying stand over them. I'm not saying tell them what to make, but they're not in a position to be doing these passion projects, right? Passion project is something that a Naughty Dog would do in the meantime while they're making The Last of Us, or while they're making Uncharted. They got a little extra time over here. They do something else on the side, kind of like the Lost Legacy, right? Passion
Mm-hmm.
project, got extra time. We'll do something extra. It doesn't take away from the main focus or the main game.
Yeah, I do think
I kind of think that they're using that excuse, passion project quotes, um, as a way to kind of draw attention to that. Okay, well, we're now letting our developers do what they want to do. But if your developer studios are making some game like Battletoads or something that don't really capture the majority of the attention, then you're back in the same boat. The reason why people wanted them to let developers do what they want to do is because they haven't been getting the photorealistic games. They haven't been getting the big blockbuster AAA games, and we just all went
and
under
right
the
there, I just want
assumption.
to interrupt you for 1 second.
Yeah.
I think that's the issue. The issue is we're not seeing the quality to
Yes.
justify the passion projects.
Yes. Yes.
So for instance, no one would be upset with a Grounded if The Outer Worlds 2 came out.
Yes.
No one
That's
would be upset about a Bleeding Edge 2 if Ninja Theory 2 was announced before Bleeding Edge.
yes.
So
Exactly.
so
That's my
if they
point.
left, because that's what I think they're going towards. I think they're going to use the E3s, the Video Game Awards, to
Yeah.
show the big titles. And they're going to use the XO to show what, the Compulsion Games are doing, what the Undead Labs are doing, what whatever that other one with the Psychonauts 2, I don't even know what that company's called, what they're doing. They're going to show what their side project of all their companies doing. And I think that's the direction they're going. But the problem with that direction is you're expecting people to be okay with it when you throw a rock in the middle of the direction and not see what the end of the road is.
Exactly.
So and I completely understand that. It's like, when it comes to Bleeding Edge, shout out to Iron Lords again. We actually had an interview with the lead, the person in charge of Bleeding Edge, and she said that that it was about a year and a half into development. So it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint, to just cancel that. Yeah. It's already almost done, especially with that. I appreciate that Double Fine. So I understand that. What I think they should have done is they should have, even as much as I hate to say this, Kratos, like, cancel XO. Like, do something. Like, you cannot show the little stuff and then a month later show big stuff and expect people to be okay when the little stuff was shown on your platform and you show the big stuff on someone else's platform.
Listen, I totally agree. Here's the thing, right? Do they need all these different events? No, they don't. They really don't. What happened this year? Sony decided they weren't going to E3. Sony decided that they weren't having a PSX. They decided they were not going to Gamescom and other events. And did that hamper them at all?
No,
not
it didn't.
really.
Because they
didn't show up.
It's because
what? The guys got more attention by announcing Ghost of Tsushima release date. They got more attention by announcing The Last of Us 2 with a trailer. They got more attention with just various other things. And so you don't have to necessarily be there because people are spending their money to go to these events. And if you're not going to show them something worthwhile, then shit, they're going to be like, man, why should I go?
This is the direction I think Microsoft's eventually going to go with these events. Mm-hmm. Once we get to the next XO, we're probably going to have a Fable announcement, hopefully. Hellblade 2 will be a little bit more in development. We might see something on what Obsidian's working on again. And then, from here to there, the inside Xboxes, they're going to show more Grounded. They're going to show more Bleeding Edge. And then after E3 next year, you'll then start using your smaller platform to start showing stuff that's already been announced. Yeah. So I think that's where the direction that they're going. I think, if you want my honest opinion, I think they launched inside Xbox too soon. I think with all the studios that they bought, I mean, not to mention that they bought those studios, but they've been building studios. Undead Labs just built a new studio. No one knows if it's going to be heavy in development studio or it's going to be a support studio. I think it's going to be a support studio. I think they wanted to open up a new studio in a different region so they can get better talent.
Out of New Orleans, right?
Yeah, so they can get better talent.
Yeah.
Obviously some of these studios even have 3 titles. I don't know if you saw that at the Video Game Awards, but there was a part in the Video Game Awards where when they were showing the Ninja Theory 2, Hellblade 2, when they showed Hellblade 2, there was 3 dots at the bottom right. People thought that was a loading screen. Yeah, and Ninja Theory came out and said, no, that's 2 out of 3 projects that we're working on. So apparently Ninja Theory is the second project they're working on, and Bleeding Edge is the third. So they're working on something else on top of that. Now I don't know if Hellblade is is working on their A team.
Number 1, yeah.
So but it was the second dot in that process. Yeah. I don't know if that's by relevancy. I don't know if that's just by what came up on the computer. But we'll have to see on that. And I think that you can continue.
Let me ask you this, right? Since you said it. Fans are more engaged than ever with the words of how they're spoken from developers, from Phil Spencer, from the executive team. They're more engaged in what the exact studios are doing. So with that being said, you have Ninja Theory. They have an A, B team, maybe a C team or whatever. Do you think that they need to start distinguishing what games are AAA and which games are indie?
I do, and then I don't. I do because I do feel like that the hardcores like us,
Yeah.
We know what AAA, AA, single A are. Casuals don't. People that go up, but I do think they need to, for the most part. I feel like we should know what every studio is working on. I'm sorry. I
I
feel
agree.
like if
I
you
agree.
are investing into a brand, you should know what that brand is making.
Hmm.
That's just me. And that's why Sony says they stuff 3, 4, 5 years in advance. Because they're like,
Exactly.
look, this is the reason you buy a PlayStation. Because we got
Mhm.
this coming out here. We have all these games coming up. My guess is as good as yours when they come out. But
Exactly.
they are going to come out eventually, and that's why I really love the fact that Phil, broke his sealed lips
Yeah.
thing, and he's like, look, Hellblade 2 is coming. I don't know when, but it's coming. And if you want to see this built engine cutscene, you can. But it's coming, and I really respected that. But
Look,
I want to.
we asked for that. We asked Phil for that, and he delivered. He get all the praises for that, man.
So what I want to go into now. I want to get a little bit off of the PlayStation and Xbox because I do want to revisit this in future episodes. But I want a little bit more concrete information. Probably after they've both been formally announced. I want the actual specs of something because I don't care about specs, but everyone else seems to care about specs.
Yeah.
So I want that. I want to see what the launch titles are. To be honest with you, because I have a feeling Horizon Zero Dawn is going to be a launch title. People tell me I'm crazy, but I have a feeling that's going to be a launch title.
Yeah.
And I want to see what Halo Infinite looks like. And until we get that information, I don't know what to really talk about when it comes to this. But what I want to talk about is the Video Game Awards. And this year, Kratos, is it just me or does it seem like the whole industry's taking this sucker seriously now?
It it is. Yeah, even last year, I think people look forward to it because we had the big hitters, right? At the end of the day, it's all about the games. We had Red Dead versus God of War. That's what people showed up to see. Um, and this year we had, Dead Stranding, The Outer Worlds, and a couple other games, Super Smash Brothers and stuff, and Sakura. And I think everyone was, the jaw dropped when Sakura won. But hey, it was a great game. It probably didn't sell a lot of numbers, but what goes into what the metrics of how a game of the year is chosen is different. From my point of view, from your point of view, than how they rate it. So I don't know, but hats off to them for winning. Um, I think a lot of people are taking the Game and Awards seriously, and I'm going to admit I do think that for Jeff Keighley and for the gaming awards, I do think that they did right by not giving Death Stranding Game of the Year because it would have been too controversial. People would have tried to
I
discredit
even
it.
feel
I mean,
like
you saw what happened when
part of me
people.
feels like even if it came out and it was open, like Jeff Keighley's like, look, Game of the Year one game, Death Stranding one Game of the Year. He's like, for this industry and for my brand, we can't let that happen.
Yeah,
And I really, even if they
yeah,
won
yeah,
Game of
yeah,
the
yeah,
Year, I feel like it would have been changed, like behind closed doors. Like I really do, because at the end of the day, like I don't personally think that Jeff Keighley's doing anything shady. I think the system needs to be restructured.
I
Because
don't. I'm going to disagree with that. Right? What happened is, and it's inevitable. It's going to happen again. Right? Kojima is just loved by his fans.
And that what I mean by broken is I feel like in the thought process, our votes only counted 10%. And I don't
Yeah,
think we deserve a 50-50. I don't. But I
true.
do think we deserve like a 30%. I do.
But okay, Addict. You're on Twitter. You're on YouTube. YouTube, just like everything is split 50-50, right? PlayStation versus Xbox. That is will always go down like that. So it's always going to be controversial because people will retreat to their corners, and that's just the way it is now, right? I think this generation has amplified that. It's kind of been like that for a long time, but uh due to social media and a higher reach, now everyone just has their clicks. They just stick with it, and it is what it is. And so I think it was a lose situation for him. Sure, Death Stranding to me should have been Game of the Year, but it's not about me. I didn't make that choice. But I do understand why it wasn't chosen, because if it would have been chosen, you would have had, people were already doing it before um before the game was even nominated. They said, "Oh, Jeff Keighley's in the game. Of course, he's gonna win. It's rigged. It's rigged." They were crying. All the crying was happening months and months and months ago, even a year ago. So there was no way in the world that Jeff Keighley could have gave that game of the year, even if it was even if it warranted, because of the backlash would have been there. People already tried to discredit it, and so that's just kind of what it is. It was a unfortunately, um, gamers can be fickle like that, and we do count. Even if we say only 10%, we do count because we're on social media and we're on YouTube and other avenues, and we do,
Sorry about that. I had my mic muted. Yeah, and I do agree with that. I do think there is to a certain point. Even coming in with a 30% point on us, it could literally just backfire on me. And then the 30% for Kojima too. So it could be anyone. But I do feel like in terms of the community and the actual consumers playing these games, I think 10% is just ridiculous. I think 10% is not enough to really vocal a community vote when the industry is 90% of it.
Yeah.
So it gives that perspective, kind of like the elections. Like, is it even worth voting for? You know what I'm saying? Like, because it doesn't feel like your vote really counts. And I think that's one of the biggest issues I have with that. But I do want to bring it back a little bit in terms of the video games as a whole. Where do you see this platform going? Because for myself, J-Dub, I see them getting more AAA announcements. I see them getting more announcements in general. What do you think? Do you think that this is something that's going to continue happening?
See, I don't. I think it's going to be around what happened this year is what I believe we're going to
I
continue.
think it needs to be shorter, though. I will say that. I think it needs to be shorter.
Yeah, but I still think that E3 is, for the foreseeable future, will still be that.
It's gonna be that show,
that stage, but I do see it declining year after year. It's definitely declining year after year. Think about it. Sony didn't even show up this generation. Everyone left saying, man.
Well, Microsoft's not even really there either. So Microsoft's in a completely different building.
Yes.
They technically Microsoft. All three of the big ones are not even at E3. It's just Microsoft's. They're actually they're not at the E3 convention center, but they are present at the events. Yes. Now, I do think when it comes to Sony not being there this year, I think they should have at least been on the floor for their fans that showed up to pay for it. I think they owed them that much. And I do think that was kind of disrespectful that they didn't even show up on the floor. You don't have to have a press conference to give your fans something to play. Sure, they didn't have a whole lot to show in terms of first party because their games are about to pop. And, maybe they don't want it out to the masses like that, to everyone going to E3. But you have so many indies that you support. You have so many third-party deals that you support. You could have played COD on your thing. You could have literally had a 24-stage COD place, taking the whole thing, which they'd never do this. But people would have been a little bit more accepting that you weren't there because you at least were on the floor.
Keep in mind, though, we do have to go back to what E3 is, right? It's always been an expo for developers. Has always been an expo for the people in the industry. It's never been for us. It's never been. Only a year ago, 2 years ago, did they actually allow the public to come. So it's that was never the issue. That was never the thing. Plus they charge millions of dollars for these people to come there and be a part of that event and get show space and stuff like that. So it's very expensive. And then they limit your time, and there's just a lot of stuff that everyone in the industry is talking about. From Greg Miller, he talked about it. Colin talked about it. It's just too expensive, and the payoff for all of that money is not worth it. Whereas you have events like PlayStation Experience, XO19, they could spend money at their own event and curate their own thing and not just.
But do you think that? Yeah, I would be okay with that, J-Dub.
Think about it. EA has their own thing.
But I get that. I'd be okay with that. But they didn't do anything in terms of events. Like, if you're not going to go to E3, at least go to PSX. Yeah. Like, I do feel like to a point, they just because they on top And just because, they have so much more over the competition, because that's just being realistic. They have way more over the competition.
That's true.
They have quality in games. They have the reach in their in the community, and they have the reach in the industry. They have the respect from everyone. I feel like you can't just not show up to certain events because you don't want to. Maybe
let me question you on that though. Okay, think about this. They did not show up for E3. They saved maybe what, 10 million maybe by not going. The amount of attention that was on them while they was there, right? They ended up showing the trailer for The Last of Us 2 and getting the attention was on them anyway. So to them, they're like, look, we saved $10 million and we still had the attention. So our job, I mean, sure, if you're a diehard, like I've always, I always go to PSX. Would I have liked one? Yes, I would have. But would have wanted to spend all that money and travel and do all of this stuff just to go there and watch Concrete Genie and some of the smaller titles or stuff that I've already seen? Probably not. Plus, knowing that this was the last year of this generation coming up, I'd rather to go next year when they actually have something to show. So they changed their event to February. So they're gonna have a February event.
Is that been confirmed? They're gonna have one in February.
I think that was confirmed in multiple sources. We know they have a what do you call it? An event coming up soon. I think February was the date that they chose,
and that's cool because
21st, I believe.
Last gen, the beginning of this gen, they did that in February too. So I could totally see that happening. Yeah. We'll just have to see.
With the PS4 Pro, they did it with the PS4, so it's always kind of that's their standard. So it kind of makes sense. But that is where I want to spend my money. I want to spend my money to go to that. I don't want to, to go watch Iron Man VR and Concrete Genie.
And I'm not even necessarily saying about like a press event, like anything with a keynote. Like I'm just saying like the show, like the people that actually went to that to that event. I feel like if they don't have nothing to show on a presentation level because everything's for next gen, and I think that's what's really going on here. They don't have anything to show because everything they want to show is next gen, and they don't want to do it too soon. So I can understand that, but I do feel like they should have at least showed up on the show floor and had some games to play. Could have even been DLCs and stuff. You'd be surprised at how many people would sit in a line to play a DLC. There was like a 4-hour line to play Recore. Kratos. There was a 4-hour line to play Recore.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. I believe what Sony did. I believe they was, and this is just my theory. I believe that they were testing the waters for the future. They were testing to see could they get away with not showing up. And I can see them, not next year because they've already confirmed they're going to be there. But I can see after next year them saying, "Guys, we're going to have our own event in the summer or something." And I mean, I not just me saying this, but the industry was saying this. All these articles, all these publications were saying. Sony is the gaming industry. There's such a huge factor into the gamers, the games, the hardware, the mind share, that when they're not there, their presence is felt. And I think
it was like I went to E3 this year. It felt, especially the building that Sony's in. Like you felt the emptiness. Like you really did.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move on to the main event. The main topic, what probably 80% of people came in here for. I do want to end this an hour direct, so we'll only have about 15-20 minutes on it because I don't like doing this for like an hour. I already do 3-hour podcasts with ILP almost every week. I ain't trying to do this too. But let's talk about what Twitter has been blowing up about, the Xbox, not one, but the Xbox Series X. And what I really want to tackle here, J-Dub, is I want to tackle specifically the name. I want to tackle the design. And I want to tackle what you think that you were to educate an educated guess what you think the price would be. So let's go ahead and do it with the price first. Right now? Let's act like Lockhart doesn't exist because right now Lockhart technically doesn't exist. It's not been announced.
Okay.
What do you think the X's price is coming out?
$599.
I think that's fair. shout out to Randolph Thor. I know you guys have been having a field day with him here lately, but he thinks it's coming out as $4.99.
It could be. I think. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Unfortunately, for some reason, Microsoft has in their head that they should always go first. They do every single E3. They
and
go
it always
first.
rips in their face.
Look, 2013. That's exactly what happened. They went first on the stage, and then from what I hear, Sony undercut them by $100.
And what I want to bring up real quick before we can continue is, the chat, I want you guys to put in that chat. What do you think is going to be? Obviously, I see some people already putting it in. I see some $5.99s. I think generally everyone thinks it's going to be $5.99. I think it's going to be $5.99 just because of all of that power, but I wouldn't be surprised. What Microsoft needs is a $4.99. They do. They need a $4.99 because of the direction and the beating that they've took all generation. Like, the way I see it, look, Microsoft, you messed up this gen. You literally almost ruined the entire brand of Xbox. You're going to have to take that loss and make it $4.99 if you've really taken this seriously. But I don't know if they will.
I disagree with you on that, right? Everyone always saying, everyone I talk to, gamers, always saying, well, you can't give up on Microsoft because there's always next generation. Next generation, the slate is wiped clean. And I do believe that the slate should be wiped clean for them. So I do believe that this next generation, they have to start from scratch. And if they see value in their box being $5.99, that's what it's going to be. It looks like, based on rumors of specs, it looks like it's going to be a behemoth.
It definitely does. Like, it's
like Hellblade that's going to take advantage of it, and the people will come.
And I want to use that, since you opened up that Pandora's box into the second part of this topic. Is it like, I don't mind the aesthetics of this console. I think it looks great, but I do kind of like, part of me feels like, because if you look at the comparison between it standing up with the X, the Pro, I think the Pro is actually bigger than it standing up. And I know the original Xbox is, because that thing was bulky as hell for no reason. So I want to bring that, like, most consoles, be real here, they're used to it standing down. They're used to it being flat surface down. And if you put this thing flat surface down, it looks bad, J-Dub. Like, it. Let me try to find. I think it was IGN, wasn't it? I think it was IGN that put a comparison. Let me try to find a comparison, because it was crazy big.
Hey, listen. When I saw that, I said, "What the?" I said, "It looks, dude. It's the size of a cinder block." It was sitting next to an Xbox One X, and you could stack 3 Xbox One X's on top of each other, and that was the size of this thing, laying flat.
All right, so here it is.
Okay.
Bam. It's on the screen right now. I believe it's on the screen. Tell me if you guys in the chat, if you guys could see it, because I don't have my thing up. Yes, it is. All right, so I just want to point that right here is the X, if I'm correct. Yeah, a lot of you know I don't have the X. You make fun of me all the time. But there's the X. The X is smaller than the S, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it is.
So look at this thing. Let's be real here.
There you go.
Kratos, would you assume from seeing this is really meant to stand up? This is not meant to be put on its side.
Yeah, it's meant to stand, but I'm gonna tell you. Phil said, yeah, you can set it, you can lay it flat. But I will not be laying it flat.
This is literally half the size of my monitor.
Dude, that thing is, again, it looks like a cinder block. Now, here's the thing. IGN made that based on the dimensions and the specs that Microsoft gave us. So it fits, and that is the size. I see guys out there saying, oh, well, no. That's it. That's the size. And I don't mind it, because I want the power. Sure, people are going to say, hey, but you're just going to put it in your entertainment system anyway. But nah, most people don't. We have our consoles visible. So do aesthetics matter when it comes to a console? To me, yes, it does.
I think it matters a lot
It does.
because especially in certain
That's the
parts of the
image.
world, people like, and you got to consider how many
Japan,
people's.
Japanese people are not buying that. I hate
Well,
to say
Japanese people aren't buying PlayStations really either.
that too.
They're more of a mobile thing. They don't like playing home consoles. But the thing is, like, I know a lot of people that won't buy certain electronics if they not in a certain color. Like, I'm being dead ass serious.
Yeah.
I know people that won't buy something if it doesn't look symmetry to the shit they already own.
Mm-hmm.
So, and let's be real here. Like, I don't think it's gonna be an issue because I think 88% of the people are gonna have this sucker standing up. Because it looks bad on its side. What do you think? If you were right now put a percentage on the Xbox Series X owners, what are they doing? They gonna stand this sucker up or gonna put it on its side?
Oh no, it's gonna be stood up.
It looks bad if it's stood on the side. So okay, let's. So there's not a whole lot to attack.
The image just doesn't look good sitting south.
You know what? I don't even know if I can fit that entertainment center, man. If I can, there's going to be no room for. And people need to realize, how is this thing going to get any kind of circulation of air if it's in something like that? Well, let's go to the topic of the hour, the thing everyone's been losing their mind about, and that is what your thoughts on that name is. What are your thoughts of the Xbox Series X? J-Dub, go.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest. Microsoft has never been good with names, and it doesn't shock me that they came up with this. I mean, for crying out loud, they created an Xbox One SAD. Let that sink in. Let that
X-Bone.
sink in. So, exactly. They
had an Xbox. They went to the 360. They went back to the Xbox One.
Yeah. Well, come to find out from recent reports, they're saying that the official name of this Xbox Series X
is Xbox.
Xbox.
Which I don't mind that, but you shouldn't have. Okay, the reason I have an issue with that is because when they showed it on the screen, when you have something that's like a subtitle, like for instance like a movie that's called Star Wars and then whatever the movie's called, technically that's a Star Wars movie and whatever the movie's called is under it. This is technically the same area. They would have had Xbox way bigger than Series X, and Series X would have been way smaller. They all were the same size. So I don't even think they really believe that either, because you don't name something like a subterior name, because that's what they're going for. They want, this is Xbox, this is the version Series X. That's what they're going for. But the problem with that is it looked like they were in sync. Like, this is what it's called. This isn't a subterior thing. The old thing is called Series X.
Well, does that go back to what I kind of been saying this whole generation, that Microsoft has a PR problem and they need to outsource a third-party PR company to do their marketing for them, they need focus groups, they need stuff for people, because we're just gamers, right? We're just gamers, and we can sit back and talk about this on podcasts, and we can tell you everything that's wrong and how, before they even bring it out. Phil kind of needs to come in and say, hey guys, what do you think about this? And we'll tell them, look.
And I don't think there's enough.
Somebody's
going
to call it.
I don't think there's enough of that. There needs to be a lot more. And do it. I feel like
Apple does it with stuff, and guess what? They almost never get a name wrong with the product. Even when people laugh, it becomes a household name and people forget about it. I remember the iPad, when it first came out, everyone was making fun. iPad. Now, it's a household brand.
Here's my question to you. Now, let's act like that the other iterations of the Xbox didn't exist, which is hard because Xbox One has been such a huge catastrophe. Let's act like they don't exist and they came out with a console and their name is the Series X. Now, let's say if they, 5-6 years down the line, they make another one. It's called the Series X2, and so on and so on. Do you think in the long run that this is a better wording process and a better name for the long run? Not necessarily for for this Xbox or the previous Xboxes, but from here going forward, do you think this is a better name in the long run?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. Who cares what happens 7, 8 to 10 years from now, right? The way things are going, there won't be any hardware in the future anyway. So will this even matter? What are you going to do? Name your service Well, this is the Xbox Series. Why? Because it's a subscription that you just play it stream to your TV. Like, that's nobody cares. You don't get brownie points today for something that happens in the future 10 years from now. It's about in 12 months, you have a console that you're trying to sell to your customers. It needs to be sexy, it needs to be attractive, it needs to be priced right, and it has to have the content. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. And you don't need another bad stigma. Now, one thing, I don't know if you've been paying attention what Sony's been doing, right? For the majority of the generation, all the bad stuff that people have criticized them for, such as crossplay, such as cross progression, such as a lot of their online service stuff, PS Now, just the ability to do a lot of different things. They have taken those excuses off the table. So when you start with PS5, all of those reasons and excuses that you have for not buying a PlayStation or getting in the PlayStation ecosystem is gone. It's off the table. You can no longer knock them for any of that crap. So these are the guys you're going to be competing against.
And I do feel like Microsoft low-key's doing that too. They got criticized. Rumors with the Lockhart. We obviously don't know what's going on, but it's looking like if they make a Lockhart, it would be really dumb for that to be the same price as the PS5. So I'm assuming that's going to be lower. Obviously, this is speculation. Don't know anything, but that's what I would assume. So if it goes like that, when it comes to the power narrative, at the beginning of this generation, they got murdered over it. So clearly it looks like that they're trying to take that, because what it is, they don't want the Xbox One X, they don't want the Xbox Series X, and I don't think that's because it's me confusing the names. It's because I'm so used to saying Xbox One. Yeah. They don't want the Xbox Series X being written about how bad this performs on anything. They don't want be written about anything else. And it would have been a lot different for the generation if Xbox would have had games. Didn't matter if they performed okay to the next platform, as long as they had good games. That was the problem, and I feel like if they remedy that, they'll be very okay going in the next generation. Now, obviously, I don't think Microsoft's ever going to win a generation in terms of sales because they just don't have the presence in the world like Sony does.
But there is no excuse for them to try.
But they are trying. They're starting to get. I've been told multiple times that Phil's really looking for some type of Asian developer right now. He's trying to get something in China, but in China or Japan, he's looking in those areas because he needs to be more diverse. That's the reason Sony dominates like they do in other areas, is because they got something for everyone, and that it's hard to do anything if you don't got something for everyone.
Well, here's the thing. This is how Sony's been able to leverage that, right? Not just because they're a Japanese company, but because they've had good business practices, right? Microsoft has been known to, look what happened with Platinum Games. Look at the fiasco of that. Just stuff like that in the past have caught up to them. And so while I applaud Phil for trying to go and get some of these Japanese studios, I think they would do better just partnering for certain games with Capcom, maybe even go back and revisit with Platinum, Square Enix. Go and try to make some headway with that. I mean, in applause to Phil, he got the older content to Yakuza and stuff like that to finally come over to the
what I like about
Final Fantasy over to the Xbox.
What I like about the Yakuza things and the Kingdom Hearts is, they're coming on Game Pass day and date. So, I would say a lot of people that have a PlayStation, there's a good amount of them have Game Pass too. Because obviously there's only like maybe 45, 50 million tops. Yeah. And I think the rumor was they had like almost 10 million subscribers. And, that could be just people that jumped on for $1 or a free month. Obviously, we don't know if they're going to stay around. We'll have to see. But, the biggest thing I want to point out here before we close this up is, one thing that we can't say is Xbox. I'd say Xbox still has a lot to learn in terms of, how they publicize their brand. I think the PR needs to be fixed, like we were talking about earlier. I obviously think that the marketing seems to be getting better. So maybe it was a money thing. Maybe they were trying to save money for next gen. Because obviously, it's like I tell people all the time. you don't really have anything to show. Like all your games are trash. And people hate when I say that. It's not like I'm saying that every single game that Microsoft makes is trash. It's a lot of
They
games that
they
Microsoft
get it.
makes
They know
doesn't.
what you're saying, man. You listen. You support Microsoft. They know what you're saying. They just don't like that being told to them on and reminding them. Because I do it, right? I do it all the time, right? For fun. That's kind of like what I do. I remind people what happened in this generation constantly, and they're like, "Look, that's the past. They've changed. Yeah, sure, but I'm gonna have fun with it
What
now."
they need is because I think their studios, for the most part, they're okay. I think I should do another Addict show on their studios in general, but they need to show quality. They need to show these studios can make good games because I do think Ninja Theory can be Microsoft's answer to Naughty Dog. Obviously, not be on Naughty Dog's level. Naughty Dog's had years to establish the brand that they had.
Listen, don't. Okay, I'm gonna say this right, and I'm gonna say this for the record. I want this notated for the record.
Notated. Okay, let me write
Oh,
it down.
please, let's stop comparing studios to Sony's studios. You cannot compare them unless you go back 10 years.
Well, that's what I meant. Like, it
I
takes.
know, but listen, going through the struggle and going through the pains and the flops and
They've
everything to
already
get
went
to
through the
that
growing
point.
pains. They
Yeah,
have people that they know do what they know what everyone does. And the thing is when you make as many games and stuff as Naughty Dog and
yeah,
Saint Monica, well, maybe not much as Saint Monica because they've always just made God of War, but especially Naughty Dog. The reason it makes Naughty Dog so was because they made so many different types of games,
yeah, yeah.
so they know what works and what doesn't work.
But also, right, like Neil Druckmann said it, and all of the developers back him up on it. You just can't throw a group of people together, um, no matter how talented they are, and expect them to knock you out a hit, right? They have to figure out what works, who's good at what, and go back and forth. And it's going to take 2 or 3 games, or maybe even more. It's going to take a decade or more to figure out to get to that point where you're on a Naughty Dog. Where listen, Naughty Dog can crank out a freaking basketball game, and it'll probably be the best basketball game ever because they're just that good at what they do. They know the process. They know what gamers are looking for. They know how to grab you. They know what they're doing. And so this is why people say that they're up there with the best developers in the history.
All right,
That didn't
so
come overnight. Now, guess what? You take a Guerrilla Games and you throw them through all of the games that they've had in the past, with Killzone and then and stuff like that. And then, always making these shooters, and all of a sudden you let them do something different. And they were able to come up with Horizon Zero Dawn and so on and so on with all these different games. Sony didn't get like that overnight, man. This stuff, I mean, they've been in the game now for 25 years. I don't want people to think just because Microsoft decided just the last 2 years to invest in some studios that all of a sudden now it's a even no, it's not a mano y mano yet. We have yet to see what these guys can even produce. And I get it. You've poached a couple of people from Naughty Dog, you've poached a couple of people from Guerrilla Games.
are we talking
You
about the initiative?
yes, the
Okay.
initiative, yeah, because a lot of
I
people
I
are,
don't even know what they're doing. I have no
yeah, but,
clue.
but we do know, right, that they have a lot of talent that comes from a lot of good studios. So we can assume whatever game they come out with is going to be good, but we could assume wrong too, because
It's
it goes back to what Neil Druckmann said. You just can't throw a bunch of people in a room and expect them to crank out some hits. This is why when you look at a person like Kojima, right? Been with Konami for over 30 years, been cranking out games for over 30 years. All of his games are really high rated in the 90s. In the 90s for all of his most of his games. And so he goes off, creates a brand new studio from scratch, brand new people for the most part, for a bunch of them. He started mingling with Sony studios, getting engines and stuff like that, and he's able to create a masterpiece like Death Stranding. Now, it may not be your cup of tea, but that game was definitely not a 50 Metacritic game. It wasn't a 60 Metacritic game. And so with all that change, his worst he can crank out is an 83 Metacritic game. So that is, I mean, shit, and it almost ended up game of the year. So
we won't go into that. We won't go
I
into
know.
that.
I'm just saying what I don't want to have happen, right? And I'm being optimistic about the new Microsoft. And I said that when they had the Game Awards. I gave Phil Spencer and Microsoft the praise. I said now my interest in Xbox has re-emerged. I am now you have my attention. Now I have a $500-600 sitting in my wallet waiting to see what else you're going to show me and bring. Whereas before,
Now you go
Xbox
from
was not on my
full
mind.
blown Kratos on Twitter trolling to half Kratos on Twitter trolling.
Yes. So again, a great game will. If you come out with a great game and you show me, like, it will change minds. So this whole generation, yes, we know Xbox has kind of been behind. They kind of, screwed the pooch or whatever, however you want to call it. People will forget that. All you got to do is bring good games. What happened when they came out on stage, showed the new Series X, they showed Hellblade. Everybody lost their minds. Everybody forgot all the bad shit they did in the past. Pardon my language. But all the stuff that happened before,
That's what me
water
and
under the bridge. Nobody cares.
That's what me and Cognito always say. Like, gamers are very, what have you done for me lately?
Exactly.
That's why we was always vocal. Like, come on, just show us something. And we all know the reason they weren't doing it. They took the L a couple years ago for this generation. They're like, look, we need to reestablish and we need to rebrand because we're going to lose this generation, next generation, the generation after that if we don't do it now. But it is here or there. We got to see exactly what Microsoft's doing. But definitely,
this is a great start. This is a great start.
Oh, it is because it shows that because they're starting to let what I hate about Microsoft the most that Sony doesn't really do is they let a narrative linger too long.
Yes.
And this show, they've been getting better at it. And I still think they need to do better. I mean, Sony could do better. Every company in this world can do better and stuff. But let's go ahead and finish what you're saying.
I was just gonna say the difference between Sony and Microsoft is Microsoft can have a good 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of bad news, right? And they don't try to spearhead that and come out with a bunch of good news to counteract that. Whereas Sony will have a bad day, right? They'll have remember when MLB, when they announced MLB was coming to was going to different platforms, man, ponies lost their minds. We were not having it. We were like, no, we're not having it. We are not having it. We were very vocal. We told them to, kiss our butts. We're gonna leave. We did it all. We did the whole nine. We're very vocal about it.
I was worried about you, man. I was worried about you.
Hey, real talk, man. Listen, I have always said this. You can quote me on it. You can go and look at podcasts where I've said this. The moment Sony stops giving me what I want, I'm gone. I don't care about any of the other stuff. The moment they stop giving me the big blockbuster AAA bangers that I require in the VR and keeping my attention, I am gone.
So, I definitely want to go ahead and knock this, go ahead and set. I don't know why I'm stuttering over words. I want to go ahead and end the show here in a couple of minutes. Sorry I was a little late. There's a combination between J-Dub. He was stuck in traffic a little bit, and I had to do some stuff because my birthday was yesterday, and I still had a couple stuff I had to do from that. Because I literally slept all yesterday. I didn't even care. I got up. I streamed Destiny because Destiny, they had this new mission came out, and I'm really a big fan of the character that was involved in it. I literally streamed that, and I went right back to bed, man. Like, I slept my entire birthday away. But that's what I felt like I needed to do because I work like anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week. I do the podcast, and people don't realize how much mentally exhausting it can be to do a podcast weekly.
Yeah.
Because you literally got to, it's like a job. You have to rotate your whole life around it. And I went right back to sleep. But, I do appreciate you coming on here. I'm going to have to try to do these more often. But the problem with me is my work is very inconsistent with days off. I don't know when they're going to happen. And my boss is really inconsistent on getting the schedule out in a timely manner. She's supposed to have that sucker out on Wednesday. Sometimes I don't get that out till Saturday. And the new schedule starts Sunday.
Yeah.
So that's really inconsistent. And, where can people find you, J-Dub, besides your troll itself on Twitter?
Hey man, you guys can find me at JDub01 on YouTube. And
YouTube.
I am just hit 500 subs on YouTube. My old account got hacked, so I kind of lost it. I don't have access, and I rebuilt me a new channel in this summer. I believe in June, May or June, one of them, and I'm up to 500 subs, so I'm gonna start back doing some giveaways and stuff like that. But thank you guys for supporting me and enjoying the content that I give you guys. This comedy, um, my channel and what I do, everything I do, man, it's all comedy. I try to keep you guys laughing and keep this gaming interesting and
I
not
think people take this stuff
boring.
too seriously sometimes. Like
Some do,
like
but
this
you know
is
what?
like a war, like a legit war, and
Yeah,
when someone gets like deleted off Twitter or sniped off Twitter, like
yeah.
you literally got sniped in a video game and you're respawning. Like
Exactly. Listen, some people do. Some people take it seriously. Some people don't. I just look at it like this, man. People are gonna do whatever it is they do, but for the most part, we all interact with each other. We all, you catch me on your podcast, you catch me on, the IOP, you catch me on basically everybody's podcast, giving my opinions and stuff. I'm a goofball by nature, but again, I'm a serious gamer, and that's kind of how I sum it up.
And so I definitely put Twitter, J Dub's Twitter in the chat. Go follow this dude on Twitter, man. He's definitely one of the highlights on Twitter. He makes Twitter very active on my daily life, especially his Battletoads gift. But we won't go into that right now. Definitely hit the like button if you guys don't mind. Share it. Appreciate my content get to as many people as possible. I will fix the title. I started fixing it during the podcast, but I realized I didn't care. I'll fix it later. And until next time, we're out of here. Peace.